Radio Islam International.
Well, Syrian government forces have entered into the northeastern city of Qamishli, one of the last strongholds of the Kurdish led Syrian Democratic Forces, or the SDF, as part of a ceasefire deal with the group. Joining us this evening is Zaher Sahloul, a Syrian American physician, activist, and humanitarian known for his efforts to improve access to healthcare and protect medical neutrality in conflict zones. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Zahir.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for having me, Maulana.
And shukran for your time, Brother Zahir. Talk to us. I mean, this particular development of the Syrian government forces and their entry into territory that was held by the SDF, how significant is this? We've seen the Syrian forces making slow but steady gains, especially in the northeast areas and the northern parts of Syria over the last few months. Is this regarded as, well, I would say, progress in uniting the country of Syria?
Oh, definitely. I think the context is really important, as you've mentioned. And for people who are not aware of the details of what happened in the last year, there was, of course, a huge change in the government when the Assad regime fled Syria in December of last year. And the current government, led by President Ahmed al-Shara, took control. And there was, and the whole aspiration of the Syrian people wanted to have a united country with no war, stability, and flow back of free investment and improving of the economy, education, healthcare for everyone. With the support of the international community, the regional powers, especially Saudi Arabia and Turkey, and also, we wanted the refugees and the internally displaced people to go back to their homes and villages. And we're talking about 14 million people who are refugees and displaced inside Syria and outside of Syria. In order to do that, of course, you need to have stability and you have to have control of the current government on the whole of Syria. And there were still two areas inside Syria that are not under the control of the current government. One called As-Suwaida province in the south of Syria, that is still restive and under the control of militias. And the other one, of course, is the northeast that was under the control of the Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF. And this is a group of Kurdish Syrians and Arabs who were supported by the United States and the European countries to fight ISIS. And now that the current government in Syria is fighting ISIS, and it's in, of course, partnership with the international community, there is no need to have this splinter militia that is the under control of basically communist ideology. SDF is a branch of PKK. PKK is a terrorist organization that was labeled as terrorist organization by Turkey and the international community, and they wanted to have their country, their own country in Syria and Iraq and Turkey and Iran. So this is the context. And there was a deal between the current government in Syria and the SDF with the support of the United States, which is the main supporter of SDF in the past, to have these areas in the northeast under the control of the current government. There were some glitches and there were some low-scale clashes, but now it is looks like the deal is being implemented, and the Syrian internal forces and the military started to enter areas that under the control of SDF, especially now Al Hasaka and Al Qamishli in the last 2 days. And of course, before that, they entered major province Al Raqqa and Deir ez-Zor that are now part of the current government or under the control of the current government.
Zahir, of course, would any deal for that matter, you would want to see representation by the, of the SDF forces. I mean, is this part of the deal that they would be part of at least the local administration and at least maintain a few seats in Damascus? How does this ceasefire deal work?
The deal between the government and the SDF, and this is really important, stipulate for certain things. Some of it already happened. So the president of Syria, Ahmed al-Shara, had a proclamation that provided the Kurdish Syrians with basic rights that were not present before in the last 60 years. The fact that the Kurdish language now became a language in Syria, official language besides Arabic. The fact that the Nowruz holiday, which is a major Kurdish holiday, will be celebrated as a national holiday. So these already done. The schools will be teaching Kurdish and it will become another language in Syria. And this has happened the first time in our history. Um, Kurdish Syrians have to feel that they are equal to Arabs, to Turkmen, to Assyrians, to Yazidis, to Druze, to Alawite, to other. But by the way, Syria has quite diverse population for people who do not know. 39 different ethnic and religious communities. The second part of the deal is how to incorporate Kurdish Syrians in the government, whether it's in the new parliament that was established a few months ago, and now there's no representation for the areas under control of SDF in that parliament, and how election needs to be done, incorporate to add members of the parliament from these areas, and also in the government itself as ministers or even deputy president as the term. Of the not the deputy president, but deputy to the minister of defense, and also appointing governors to these areas, Al Hasaka, who belong to the SDF. So these are kind of elements of the deals that are being now contemplated and implemented gradually.
Mm. And of course, Brother Zahir, this is progress in the north. The South, Sueda, and the Druze majority areas, they, of course, pose, I'm assuming, much more challenges for the Syrian country and Syrian government as a whole, noting Israeli influence in that area in a big way. Any progress in that part of the world, Brother Zahir, as per your observation?
Um, Unfortunately, the area, the Sueda, which is one of the 14 provinces in Syria, and it's as you've mentioned, majority Druze, and this area is surrounded or close to Israel, but it is not doesn't have borders with Israel. It has borders with Jordan, and then you have Qunaytara and Dar'a. These are other governorate around Sueda. These are mostly Arab, Sunni Muslim communities. But the militia that is controlling Sueda right now are allying themselves with, unfortunately, with Israel. There was a demonstration a couple of days ago where they raised the Israeli flag and also the pictures of Netanyahu, which is kind of very insulting to Syrians and of course to people in the region in light of what happened in Gaza and in light, of course, that Israel occupies part of Syria, which is the Golan Heights, and they were attacking Syrians over the past year and so forth. Syrian army and other places they were having incursions inside Syrian held territory against international humanitarian law, against international law, against the United Nations, and the deal that was established between Syria and Israel in 1974 after the 73 war. And this area is trying to separate from Syria by saying we want to have our independence and allying ourselves with Israel. The Israeli politicians and Netanyahu were giving them the sweet talk that we will support you and defend you. But there's no, of course, appetite, not in the region, not in the international community, not in the United States, to have a separate entity like this. So at one point, the militias controlling Sueda will have to accept reality, and they get back to the motherland. Of course, it's a little bit more complicated than this because there were clashes 6 months ago in the area that led to human rights violation on the Druze community and also on the tribes community that are in this area. And until now, the Druze claims that the government did not resolve these issues, did not put people who violated, that committed massacres to trial, and that file has to be also connected to resolving this issue.
Finally, Brother Zaire, of course, whilst the politics of Syria, one hopes will improve as the days go on, what about the humanitarian situation? Is there evidence of rebuilding of communities, especially in major centers like Damascus, Halab, Irbil, rather Irbil, etc.? And are there, further developments on the humanitarian development front?
I've been in Syria now since the change of the government and six times, and every time it's better than the time before. So definitely there is hope and optimism and happiness with the departure of the Assad regime that committed unlimited human rights violations. We're talking about in the last 14 years, the killing of more than 1 million people. 170,000 people were forcefully disappeared. I mean, they were tortured to death in the prisons of Assad. Chemical weapons were used. The displacement crisis, as I've mentioned, 90% of the population in Syria are below poverty. By the way, South African doctors. I met with several of them who came to Syria and supported the Syrian people. South African NGOs also supported the healthcare and medical relief in Syria. And we are indebted to the good-hearted South African people from all communities. But right now, things are starting to improve gradually. There is more electricity. There is better internet. There is stability. There is, the situation is safe, and the economy has started to pick up. It will take some time for a country that was under the war for 15 years to go to the even the pre-war situation. The World Bank has estimated that at least there is a need for $160 billion for Syria to rebuild itself and go back to the way it was before the last 15 years. So there's a huge need for investment, a huge need for improvement of the support of the international community and an organization. It will take time, but things are improving gradually.
Zaher Sahloul, shukran. Thank you for your time this evening here for us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
جزاكم الله خيرا. شكرا أخي.
Zaher